So are curses real? Curses are simply manipulation of energy that impacts us in non-beneficial ways. So I'm here just to briefly introduce this minefield of energetic manipulation. My name is Tania Aurora Whitecrow. I work as a shamanka, which is a Northern European term for shamanic medicine woman. So, as I say, it's about energetic manipulation. And if you think like on some level, when we're working with energy, whether it's through healing or creating spells, if you're that way inclined, that's energetic manipulation, but it's beneficial, okay, or we believe it's beneficial. So how do we know if we're doing something that's for the highest and best good? And how do we know if we're being manipulated? So essentially, before we can really work in the energetic realms, we really need to be looking at our relationships and where we are in our everyday life. You know, how strong are our boundaries? Are we being manipulated by people? Can we see it when we're being manipulated by people? If we can't engage in that physical relationship realm and navigate that, we do not really have the adequate tools to be able to navigate that in the energetic realms. If we don't have that level of discernment, so that is really important. And that's very often why we will talk about returning to yourself and building up that robust energy field from doing your shadow work. Okay. Where we have awareness around where we're still healing, that awareness creates protection. So energies that are external to us have more difficulty in locking into those areas, because essentially, now I'm talking about psychic attack rather than specifically curses, essentially that energy comes in and it makes a match. So like a match wounding, if you like, as what can happen between, you know, in what we might call, and I say in inverted commas, karmic relationships, okay, where we start to play that those dynamics out and learn from them. But the same can happen with an energy being rather than a person and ourselves. So that's how we experience psychic attack. That can generally only come in where we either aren't aware of that wounding or it's still very raw. Okay. And remember, this is just a brief introduction to what potentially is a complex subject area. And the reason it's complex is because we're human. We see things in linear time. We don't tend to see things multidimensionally. And so on one hand, it's very simple, but because of our human capacity to see multidimensionally is currently minimal, it can appear to be complicated. Okay. So I started talking about forecasts and predictions in a previous video when I was talking about weather manipulation. So how the weather forecasts can, in effect, manipulate us into agreeing, non-consensual agreement that, oh, this is the weather we're going to experience in this place at this time. Okay, so that is that's a form of manipulation. And the reason I'm bringing that up around forecasts and predictions is because we could go to somebody who's given us a forecast or a prediction for our life and attach to it. And then it might not happen. That can be for many reasons, okay? And that is because there's these different timelines and these different choice points. And if it involves other people, they're also on multiple timelines and multiple choice points. So when we get a forecast or a prediction, it's the most likely outcome for where we are at the moment as far as that person is, or that person's guides are able to see. But as human beings, we're creative, and we're often, think or do things out of the box that are unexpected. But what happens is it's that attachment to, oh, but I was told. And that creates a looping. And when we create a looping like that, that in effect, it creates a self-curse. And that disappointment, if it doesn't happen, or it's going to happen, and without going into the complexities of our language and how our language can affect that. If you want something, you'll be kept in wanting. If you wait for something, you may be kept in waiting, So, but this is how simple that cursing energy can be. Our own thought forms and behaviors and attachments can create that and hold us back. Now, in my experience, and this is something I work with a lot, the majority of what would be called curses are unintentional. It could be the way somebody has spoken to you in anger and the way it's landed with you. That can act as that cursing energy, okay, because it struck you at a vulnerable time or in a vulnerable place. Okay, that person hasn't intended to do that. As I've just explained, many are self-created through the way that we think, and that brings in other complexities. Okay, many are ancestral and past life, so this then brings in other time frames where that understanding of that use of energy was much more common. In my experience, what would be called professional curses are relatively rare in proportion to the kind of everyday stuff. Okay. The main difference between a professional and an unprofessional curse, in whatever way, because it could be conscious, is a professional does not invest their own energy into that. So it's not possible to trace it back to the person who that it originates from, in the same way it is when somebody has left a fragment of their energy in whatever energy has come towards you, in whatever way, in some disruptive way. Okay, so you can, when that happens, it's easy to trace that back. Not saying it's impossible with the professional ones, but this is about working with energy. Okay, so there can be many things again. So there can be contracts. People can make contracts and have no time frame, and so this is what can roll down through an ancestry. It hasn't been, say, until such a thing is completed. So we could be affected by things that are null and void, but because there was no clear wording and time frame to that contract, whether that's a spiritual or actually some form of spoken contract, that could still be affecting us. Okay, and that and there's so many variations of that. Another common one is love spells, because, love spells are a way of manipulating somebody. There's that, oh, this is what I want for me, without any consideration of what's best for that other person. And there can be a lot of that within various communities and cultures. So if you're praying for somebody, for example, and you're praying for them, for what you think is best for them, you know, with your own perceptions and judgments, then that can act like a curse, because that might not be what's best for that person. It's what you think is best for that person. And so that's really important, that we understand our intentions, okay? And that something is consensual. Because we can unwittingly create energetic difficulty for people. I feel that this is why there's a greater awareness around control, manipulation. And I know narcissism has become a bit of a buzzword, but buzzword is a buzzword in itself, right? Because it's that understanding of what that is, because I think humanity generally is, most of us are somewhere on that narcissistic spectrum, just because of the way society has been set up, especially in the Western world. And by understanding that and starting to really look at our different perspectives and judgments and, you know, perceptions, and really start to question them and challenge them, and looking at our belief systems, then there is the corresponding systems that happen energetically as well. Okay. And so those two will always work together, those different levels, because we have our physical body, you know, so that manipulation can be physical, like slavery. It can be emotional. I won't go into the details of that. It could be intellectual, or it could be spiritual. So those are the kind of the four main areas that can fall into. Okay, so really, when we're looking at cursing energies, we are looking more at the spiritual, but it doesn't mean to say it doesn't affect those other layers of the human system. You may guess that I'm recording this at a different time from the rest of the video, and that's because there's a little bit more that I would like to say. I recorded the original part of the video pretty much straight after the video I did on manipulating weather technology. Okay, and so my understanding is that reptilians can only replicate and invert others' creative concepts and technology. So they can only work with things that are already within existence. And my sense is that is not only within the human realms, but we're going to stick with what's in the human realms, okay? And so I'm aware of, through a lot of my work, is what I call unraveling. You know, I've been speaking about the cursing energies, and especially within the sort of British and Scandinavian cultures, working with weather magic was a big part of that. At that time, it was the oceans, the seas, the rivers were the equivalent of our motorways. So being able to sort of sail to, you know, get from place to place was really important. So there were ways of harnessing the wind, and so sailors would be given a talisman so that they could then create winds. So this is the technology that I believe that the reptilians copied in their own way. Okay, I think my understanding is that's the same principle. we can also go back to that original weather magic and question, well, was that in agreement with the wind? So there is that, sense, though it was an organic, natural technology, was it carried out with integrity? And I guess that varied depending on who was doing it and how it was being done. Okay. So it's really important, like with this unraveling work that I do, and so therefore, I guess having the ability to be shown how to unravel something, I already had the understanding of that in, say, the organic context. And I'm already doing work where I co-create something called quantum energy packets. So I'm also, I create energetic structures. So by being able to create energetic structures, I also know how to dismantle them as well as part of shamanic training. Part of shamanic training is very much about being able to assess the organic from the inorganic, what should be there, what shouldn't be there, what's beneficial, what's not beneficial, and to be able to, recalibrate and balance and harmonize the energetic field. So that is my background, okay, in understanding that, is understanding the components that are involved, understanding my ability. Do I have permission? And what assistance am I getting? Like in this situation, I had the assistance of a beneficial reptilian, and how that builds on my experience and knowledge. So if you're interested in doing this work, I'm going to put a link below for one of my teachers who runs workshops on curse unraveling. If you're interested in exploring that, it's not something that I do right now, but what I do is I do teach workshops on the co-creation of what I call quantum energy packets and personal energy technology. So again, I'll put links for that below. I also do an introductory level of energy work that is shamanic based. I don't have anything about that on my website at the moment, but at some point I will. And if you're interested, I'll put a link where you can register your interest. There's 2 levels. Level 1 is a 2-day training, and level 2 is a 1-day training. So if there's enough interest in that, I will start to do that training again. I've not done it for a couple of years because I've had other things evolving in my life. Anyhow, sending you much love and thank you for your interest.